Oh, stop it. Hi, welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a recommendations video. It's been a while since I did a Lindsay Recommends video, and I've been planning on doing this one for a while, so I thought today was the perfect time to do it. This video is going to be recommendations for adult books for YA lovers. So if you are primarily a young adult fiction reader, I have 9 books to recommend today that I think are perfect to get into the adult genre, if that is what you're wanting to do. These are really in no particular order, just the order that I pulled them off my shelf. But the first book I have here is An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. This is a contemporary science fiction novel about a girl named April May. She has just graduated from college and she's living in New York City. One night she's walking home from work and she stumbles upon this mysterious statue that she thinks is some kind of art installation. So she calls her best friend and he comes down, he brings a camera, and they film this like fake interview with the statue that they call Carl. And then her friend uploads it to YouTube, and the next morning she wakes up and the video has gone viral and she's suddenly famous. Throughout the course of the book you find out that this particular statue, these Carls, have popped up all over the world and they are there for a specific purpose, and April is kind of the person that is trying to figure out exactly what is going on with all these statues. This is just a super fun novel. Not only does it have these crazy sci-fi elements to it, but it's also got a really good commentary on internet culture and what it means to be famous on the internet. And the reason I think this is the perfect adult book for young adult readers is because it still feels very young. April is like 22 or 23 in this book, so she's still kind of in that young adult category, and she's just out of college, so she's still trying to figure out exactly what she wants to do with her life. I think that those are themes that are really prevalent in young adult books as well. So I think that this is a perfect book if you are trying to get more into adult fiction and you like sci-fi, you like contemporary, you like a little weirdness in your literature, then this is a perfect one to pick up. Next up, I'm going to be recommending one of my favorite books of all time, and it is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. It's been a while since I talked about this book on my channel, so I felt like it needed to make a comeback. This is a post-apocalyptic dystopian novel about a world where a virus has killed off a lot of the population of the planet, and the main story focuses on this group of traveling actors and musicians. They kind of travel around the northern United States and they perform Shakespeare plays in all these little towns. The book is told in several different timelines and it's told in several different parts, and you follow a lot of different characters, and it's kind of set before, during, and after this virus has wiped out all these people. It's really just about humanity, survival, and Shakespeare, and it is fantastic. Like I said, one of my absolute favorite books of all time. The reason I think this is a perfect book for young adult readers is because it's so readable. It's so easily readable, digestible. It's not like super highbrow literary fiction. It's like a story that has a lot of different parts, and you make it through the whole book and you find out how all these parts work together, and it's just so fantastic. So highly recommend. I'd recommend this for any kind of reader, but specifically I think it's a perfect book if you're trying to get more into adult fiction. Next up, I'm going to be recommending a mystery, and I don't have my copy of this book because I've lent it to a coworker, but it is Big Little Lies by Leanne Moriarty. I feel like this book kind of goes without explanation because so many people know this book, and if they don't know the book, then they definitely know the show. But this is about 5 moms. They have children going into kindergarten. At the beginning of the book, you find out that someone has died. You don't know who died, you don't know exactly what happened, but throughout the course of the book it flashes back and it leads up to this character dying. And I just think it's one of the most compulsively readable books that I've ever read. I don't know if it's because I read it when I did or if it's just the nature of the book, but this book was like candy for me. I started it and I did not want to put it down. Every chance that I got to read, I was reading this book. And so if you're looking for something that's very compulsively readable, that has really compelling characters, that will keep you on the edge of your seat, that will keep you guessing from the very beginning, then I would highly recommend checking out Big Little Lies. Next up, I want to recommend a trilogy of sci-fi novellas, and that is the Binti trilogy by Nnedi Okorafor. This is, like I said, a trilogy of novellas, and it is about a girl named Binti. She is from an Earth-like planet, and she has been accepted into Umza University, which is this intergalactic university, and nobody from her village has ever left. She's the first person of her people to ever try to go to college, and she ends up leaving. I don't really want to say too much about it because the first book definitely has a lot of twists and turns to it, and the second book builds on the first, and the third even more so. So this is just a trilogy that I think is easy, it's entertaining, it's interesting, super interesting. The characters are all really compelling. It's just so, I don't want to say readable again because I've said it so many times already, but this series really is so readable. Nnedi Okorafor wrote some very interesting characters and she wrote some very interesting plot lines. There are so many diverse elements to this story. This is another that's kind of like a bridge between YA and adult because the main character is like 18, 19 in the first book. So she's definitely like still a young adult, and a lot of young adult does take place like kind of during college. But this just has like intergalactic space travel and monsters and trying to stay alive, which is interesting in my opinion. Like I said, it's a trilogy of novellas, so all of the books are very short. I think the first book is less than 100 pages and then the next two are like within like 150 to 200 pages, so they're not super long. Like if you read them all back to back to back, then it's like reading one complete novella, and I loved it, and I think that you will love it too, so I'd highly recommend it. Next up, I'm going to be talking about a book that you've probably already read. Honestly, if you haven't already read this book, then it's probably already on your TBR, but that is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is a book that, again, kind of needs no explanation because it's so hyped on BookTube, but if for some crazy reason you don't know what this book is about, it is about a girl named Monique. She is a journalist and she is given the opportunity to interview this illustrious movie star named Evelyn Hugo. And Evelyn Hugo is like this Marilyn Monroe, Elizabeth Taylor kind of character. She has this crazy successful film career and she is most well known for having 7 husbands. So Monique goes to interview her for this article for the magazine that she works for, and she finds out that Evelyn Hugo actually wants Monique to write her biography. And so the book is Evelyn telling Monique her story, her life story, starting from her very first husband all the way up until her last husband and all the craziness in between. I don't know that there's anything that I can really say about this book that hasn't already been said. I don't know that there's anything that I could say that could recommend this book to you further because so many people have already talked about it. Evelyn Hugo is one of the most compelling, complex characters that I've ever read about. She has the biggest Slytherin energy, and I can get behind that 100%. And like so many of the books that I've already talked about and I'm going to talk about, this book kind of transcends age ranges. There's something for everybody in this book, and I love it so much and would highly recommend it. Next up, I'm going to talk about another kind of mystery book, but a lot more literary, and that is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. This is about a group of friends who go to this performing arts college that specifically focuses on Shakespeare. And at the beginning of the book, one of the 6 of this core group of friends has died, and the main character, Oliver, was convicted of the murder. At the beginning of the book, Oliver gets out of prison, and the detective who initially arrested him comes to him and says, "I don't think you did it. I want to know the true story." And so Oliver tells this detective the true story of what happened. The reason I love this book so much is because I think the characters are all so interesting. I love the story arc of this. I love the way that it was told. I like the structure. I like that it's split up into acts, like a Shakespeare play is split up into acts. I think that this book is so smart in the way that it incorporated the Shakespeare themes and even the Shakespeare dialogue. I think if you are interested in a book like The Secret History, but you want something a little bit less literary and pretentious, then this is the perfect book because it has a lot of the same themes, a lot of the same events happen, but it's told in a much more compact way, and it's maybe even a little bit more interesting in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, I love The Secret History. It's one of my favorite books of all time, but I think that this is a more interesting version of what The Secret History is. If you're trying to get more into adult fiction, this is an easy one to pick up because it's not hard to follow. The story is told in a very simple but interesting way, and the characters are enough to keep you reading. Honestly, I mean, like, this is a book that you'll start and you won't want to put down because everything about it is so interesting. I can't recommend it enough for anybody, but if you are specifically trying to get more into adult fiction, then this is a really good place to go. Next up, I'm going to talk about a fantasy book, and it is Mistborn: The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first book in the Mistborn trilogy. I don't have my copy because I've lent it to my brother. This is another book that I don't really think needs much explanation because it's a very hyped, very popular book on BookTube. Brandon Sanderson in general is like BookTube's fantasy author. But this series is set in a world where the magic system is based on the consumption and use of different metals. Most people can only control one metal, but there are the rare few that can control all the metals, and these people are called Mistborns. And this series follows a girl named Vin who discovers that she is a Mistborn, and she joins this crew of ragtag criminals to pull off this heist. I've only read the first book in this trilogy, so I can't speak to the rest of the series, but I think that this story is so great to read if you are trying to get more into adult fiction, because it almost reads like a YA novel. The main character is only like 16 or 17, and so she's very young. She feels very young, but she has this amazing group of adult mentors, and she finds a place in this group that she didn't have anywhere else. If you like Six of Crows, this is a really great book to read because it has a lot of similar themes. Obviously in Six of Crows, they're pulling off a heist. In Miss Bourne, they're trying to pull off a heist. One of the main reasons I think that Miss Bourne is the perfect adult book for YA readers is because of its comparisons to Six of Crows. The writing in Miss Bourne is fantastic. The characters are all super compelling, and the storyline will keep you hooked. The heist is interesting, and everything about this book is just great. I think it's a great book to read if you're trying to get more into adult fiction, especially adult fantasy, and I am hopefully going to continue on with the series and finish it very soon. Next up, I'm going to be talking about another book that I don't think needs a lot of introduction on booktube because it's a very hyped, very popular book, but I think that it is a really great book to read if you are a YA reader that's looking to read more adult, and that is Vicious by V.E. Schwab. This is a sci-fi fantasy, I'm honestly not really sure what the genre of Vicious is, story about a man named Victor Vale who has recently escaped from prison, and he is out for revenge against his old college roommate Eli. When they were in college, Victor and Eli figured out how to create EOs, or extraordinaries, and EOs are people with special abilities like the ability to cause pain or the ability to bring someone back from the dead. Lots of different types of abilities, and Victor is determined to bring Eli down. The reason I think that this book is perfect for transitioning to more adult fiction is because Victoria Schwab has a very easy writing style. She writes adult books and young adult books, and so she's very used to writing both styles, and I think that Vicious, while definitely has adult themes, it's definitely an adult book, it definitely has a lot of violence and things that I wouldn't necessarily classify as young adult. The writing style is simple enough that a young adult reader could read it, understand it, digest it, and enjoy it. And that's not a dig at Victoria Schwab at all, because I've read her adult books and I've enjoyed them. I've read her young adult books and I've enjoyed them. I just think that she has a very readable and easily digestible writing style, and I think that if you are wanting to get more into adult fiction, finding a book like Vicious that kind of transitions is a good place to start, because it's not like jumping into adult fiction all at once. You're kind of easing yourself in, and that's why I think this is the perfect book to read if you are trying to get more into adult fiction. And lastly, I wanted to include one nonfiction book because I've been getting more into nonfiction this year. I've read a lot of books that are nonfiction that I've really enjoyed. My favorite book of the year so far is a nonfiction book, so I wanted to recommend a nonfiction book. And the one I'm going to pick is Get Well Soon by Jennifer Wright. This is a historical look at 13 different plagues and diseases throughout history and how exactly people went about fighting them. I know what you're thinking. It doesn't sound super interesting. It sounds kind of boring. You just want me to read a book about diseases? Yes, I do, because it's super interesting. There are a lot of historical events and facts that you learn about throughout the course of the book. I didn't know half of the things that I read in this book, and I super enjoyed that. Also, it's really funny. Jennifer Wright writes this historical account of all these crazy diseases and makes it funny and makes it super entertaining. I think Jennifer Wright in general is a really great author if you're wanting to get more into nonfiction and you're trying to kind of transition from young adult to adult. I like Jennifer Wright in general. I've read almost everything that she's written, but I think that the one I would recommend is this one because it is super entertaining, super interesting, and I genuinely learned a lot about diseases and people that I didn't think I would ever learn about. So couldn't recommend this book enough, and I really truly hope you'll pick it up because Jennifer Wright is so good but so underrated on BookTube, and I just want more people to read her books. So those are 9 books that I think are perfect transitions if you are a primarily young adult reader and you're looking to get more into adult fiction. This is, you know, obviously by no means an exhaustive list. There are tons of books out there, and there are probably 9 more books on my own shelves that I could recommend. I hope that if you are looking to get more into adult fiction that you will find a book on this list that might be the perfect book for you. If not, I would love to know some books that you have found have been great transition books from young adult to adult. I'm always looking to add more books to my TBR, so I'd love to hear any and all recommendations that you have. So yeah, I guess that's really it for today. Let me know down in the comments if you've read any of the books that I mentioned in this video and what you thought about them. Do you have similar or different opinions to mine? Do you agree that these are great books if you are looking to get more into adult fiction? And if you don't agree, I'd love to know that as well. And like I said, if you have any recommendations that you think you could add to this list or elevate this list even more, I'd love to know those down in the comments as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you again very soon. Bye!